I am the classic poster boy for the E-myth and the entrepreneurial seizure. And you just don't know what you don't know. But the problem with that model is you don't have the time or money to go out and find it, because you just got to keep going and get enough cash flow to get till Friday and then keep staying alive. Because I realized that Google is hunting, and hunting is important if there's a season for it.
True.
But you also, when you're hunting, you need to be harvesting your crops. But if you haven't planted any crops and you're only hunting, well, eventually the things you hunt get scarce,
Right.
Because everybody's hunting them. So we started planting crops.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Tinsel Touch Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Well, Billy, welcome to the $100 Million Mindset. We're happy that you're here and you're joining us in studio live.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. It's not that far from Dallas. It's just a nice little drive.
Yeah.
Most trades build a business around big categories: HVAC, plumbing, remodeling. But today's guest built a multi-million-dollar business around one word: doors.
Yeah. And not just doors, but front doors, Alan.
Right.
So the kind you walk through every day, but you don't ever really think about until it's crooked or it's cracked. But Billy Cline saw something in the ordinary entryway that most of us miss, which was a whole open opportunity.
Yeah, Billy's the founder and CEO of Your New Door, based in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, one of the largest growing door replacement companies in America. He built it from the ground up into a high-margin, multi-million-dollar business that's redefining what a focused home service company can look like.
Yeah, and what he's building isn't just a door company. It's a precision business. You should hear some of the stories that Roy tells me about. An idea comes up, and the next thing you know, he has a new CNN machine in there. Is that how you say it, Billy?
CNC.
CNC machine in there, getting ready to build that next new door. So it's focused. He's working on building a scalable machine. That's quietly rewriting how trades think about this particular category, which I think is neat. So, Billy, I want you to take us back to the beginning. How did all this start, and what made you believe that there was a business that was worth building around doors?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I had no idea. I was, Al and I were talking earlier, and my story, if you replace the word pie with the door, right, and the lady's name in the book, I can't recall, with my name, the E-myth, right?
Oh, yeah.
I am the classic poster boy for the E-myth and the entrepreneurial seizure, right? I was always good at a skill or a craft or a trade. I was good at talking to people. I was good at selling. I was good at conveying competence and whatnot. And so people would just trust me and hire me to do the thing. And I thought that's all there was to business: sell a thing and get money and just keep going. And then when I started to bring other people in, I realized I was up against my limits.
So how so?
I didn't know a thing about running a business. I didn't know a thing about payroll. I didn't know a thing about leadership. And it's very common for smaller trades types businesses to be in the same position. You see a lot of, like we call them chucking a truck or whatever,
Right.
3 or 4 or 5 man operations. And, I see them posting online all the time, asking for help and guidance and things like that. And you just don't know what you don't know. But the problem with that model is you don't have the time or money to go out and find it, because you just got to keep going and get enough cash flow to get till Friday and then keep staying alive.
Right.
And the idea came up, I think, that you told me from actually doing work with Home Depot. You were installing their doors, right? Like all the way back in 2002?
Yeah, back in 2002 or so, I moved to Dallas. This was kind of before the internet was a big deal, and we still had to find jobs in the newspaper, I moved to Dallas in 2002. My first wife was going to chiropractic school in Dallas. So her parents helped us set us up there and got us going. And I went and got the newspaper, went to the classifieds, and I found an ad for a guy who was looking for a trim carpenter. I've always been a good carpenter, so I answered it. He met me on the side of the road in Flower Mound, Texas, gave me a patio door, gave me an address, and said, go install this, and I'll check in on you. So the next day he called me and was like, the owner said you did a good job. I went by and looked. It looks good. You're hired. And that was my
that was your interview.
That was my interview. That's how I got into it, installing doors exclusively. I'd been doing it for off and on here and there, but that was my.
So you started as a tradesman,
Yep.
Billy, not a marketer, obviously. What changed when you realized you could own a category that most people overlook?
You know, in my experience and what I've learned up to this point, and what I see most tradesmen struggle with as they try and turn to a scaling business or company, is it all comes down to, especially, you know, direct to consumer, which most of us are in,
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to marketing, right? And that is really the hard part, the bottleneck, the part that they struggle with the most. And I was no exception. You kiss a lot of frogs, you pay a lot of the wrong people, you hire a lot of the wrong experts. And, you know, so it took me a long time to get through that and to get aligned with the right mindset, transactional versus relational. You know, that's not something that I would have known to go and look for it or read in a book, but I got, you know, I got hooked up with some of the right people. I met Roy and Ryan and all these guys, and you quickly learn that relational is the way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you worked for Home Depot from like 2002, 2006 before you decided to start doing this yourself. Is that about right?
Off and on for a couple years. Yeah. It was really good early on. I was 25, 26 years old, you know, made $100,000 the first year installing doors for Home
Pretty good.
Depot.
It's not bad, yeah.
Next year it went down a little bit, but the problem with their model is it's very transactional, right?
Right.
It's a Walmart type model, and they expect a certain amount to go wrong. So every time I would show up on the job to do the install, the installation was always the customer's favorite part, because they got to deal with directly with whoever was doing. There was too many hands in the pie, so they were always upset when we showed up. But the install was the best part of the experience for them. And when we would go to pick stuff up at the store, it was always broken or the wrong color or the wrong handing, just so many variables and things that were messed up. So it got to be where the guys would always just show up. We would show up and look for the problem before we even got to the job to find a reason not to go out and not get to do it anyway.
Right.
They would pay us a little bit for losing that job for the day, but it's a flawed model at scale. And I just knew that it just wasn't fun for me. And I didn't enjoy seeing people upset when you showed up. I just don't deal with that type of energy very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something fascinating in the prep call. You said that half the market was completely unserved. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Okay. In my experience, this is all anecdotal. You know, Roy and I have chatted about it a little bit, and this is just kind of what I see. And I stumbled into a lot of this. I use this phrase a lot in my business. There's a word that my wife uses about me all the time. It's called unicorn. You've met my wife, and she is a unicorn for a guy like me, right? But it happens all across my life. But I use this phrase a lot called happy accidents, right?
Right.
Like Bob Ross, this is a happy little accident. We'll turn it into a bird. And these things adorn my life. They're all over the place. They're hanging like ornaments on a Christmas tree. I can point to a bunch of them. And this was one of those. What I saw when I learned the difference between transactional and relational is Home Depot and Lowe's really are they're the go-to for door replacement. Kitchens, they do flooring and all the things, because most people don't know where to go. Right? They go there and they touch that hot stove and like, oh, this sucks, because you pay your money, you get your thing, and you don't get to complain about it. You get to, but it doesn't do any good, right?
Right.
It's the very bottom of the market. So when it comes to doors, I think that may be 15, 20, 30% of the market may be interested in a low-end transactional experience, right? On the other end of that, you've got companies like, I guess we can say names, Renewal by Anderson,
Yeah, that's fine.
things like that. But they're looking, they more are interested in replacing all your windows, and they'll do your doors, but doors is a small part of what they do. But their tickets are 30, 40 grand. They want to do the whole house. They don't want to come out just for one door. That's the other end of the market. That may be another 15, 20, 30% of the market at most, right? So that leaves a giant part of the middle, the big middle, probably around 50% that are underserved. People like we serve, like you guys serve, right? Someone that has a nice house, they've got a good job, their time is very valuable to them. They don't want to run around chasing problems down after the install. They want someone that's just knows what they're doing. They're going to come in, give them a good value, and leave them like hit everyone's expectations, right? We all have an expectation of excellence when we hire a contractor. And I could talk all day about expectations, but generally speaking, when there's a conflict or an issue, it's because someone had a missed expectation. And most of these smaller guys, they don't even talk about expectations. It's very binary. You buy the thing, they do the thing, right or wrong, they're gone. You pay them and you don't see them anymore. So
I think there's something else that's kind of interesting about your market. And I'm going to tell you a story to kick this thing off. So, my wife and I had a fridge that was in our home originally, right? It's 2001, so it was about 24 years old, and it finally got to a point where it's like, okay, it's dead. To repair this fridge was going to be substantially more than a new one because it was Sub-Zero and what have you. So we're like, okay, let's just get a new one. And we bought a new one. They delivered it. They set it up. They did a nice job, and they left. It's like, all right, they're gone. Well, we typically go through the garage door. But the following day, I went through the front door. I don't remember why, but I went through the front door. And I've got this beautiful wood door, solid wood with a little bit of glass in it. And I noticed that there was a chunk of the door in the molding, the decorative molding that was taken out. Clearly, they hit my door with this fridge. And I'm looking at it going, well, damn, that's annoying. That's really, really, really annoying. And you're in Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm here in Austin. And I found myself going, there isn't one company that I could even possibly think about to call that would come and repair a door. I mean, just when I started thinking about it, the sheer obstacles that were going on in my brain, like I'm going to have to call 15 carpenters. I'm going to have to find one carpenter that would be slightly even interested in this project. And then I'm going to have to try to get them out here. And boy, they're not going to want to do this repair, right? And the door's not sticky and it's not doing those things. But then you start doing the mental math going, what happens one day when this thing sticks? And this is what occurs to me, Billy, is that it's not like an air conditioning system. If an air conditioning system quits working today, you get uncomfortable from a temperature standpoint. If a door starts to not work, it probably sticks a little bit for a while, or maybe for a long time. And it's almost, in my mind, like the frog that boils in the pot. You just get comfortable with the fact that the door is old and worn out. So here's my question. This is where I'm going to you. How do you stimulate? Because I do believe there are needs that exist. I believe that there are legitimate leads out there that aren't being stimulated. So on this marketing side, you're talking about transactional versus relational. Like, hey, if I come in one day and I can't open my door, like I can't open it, I'm looking. But what about in between? How do you stimulate folks that are sort of in between to say, hey, I need to call Billy to have him come do a tune-up, have him paint my door, have him do whatever maintenance I might need on this door?
Well, in the ethos of what Roy teaches and the Wizard of Ads and things, of course, you have to make them fall in love with you, right? Over the big picture. However, they have to hear about you first, right?
That's right.
And that's wherein the challenge lies. It's a lot easier once you get them in your funnel and your ecosystem to stay in touch with them. What I was telling Alan earlier, I struggled for a long time to find the right people to listen to business-wise, coaching or whatever. There's not really any best practice groups for what I do. We kind of, I don't want to say we invented the space, but we kind of are pioneers in what we do against home service and home improvement. Home service, the home service guys kind of, I would tell people all the time, I was raised by wolves. I hung out with the home service guys. They taught me a lot of business principles and how to operate. But home service is something you need today. If your toilet's overflowing, you need someone out today. They're not going to ask, a lot of questions, right? Like, please come help. Same thing with air conditioning. I need, it's 100 degrees. I need help today. If your door's been sticking or having a problem, it's been like that for a minute. You didn't just wake up today and be like, oh no, right? So it is a longer buying cycle and it's a longer sales cycle. There's a lot more to learn, and you have time to learn it in this space if you're a consumer. So one of the tricks is to educate them as much as possible, and to my ethos, my plan, not really spoken, it's just more of the way we operate, is to leave them or give them a customer experience that is so good that no matter who else they call to come and look at that problem, get held to our standard. So,
but that's the after experience part, right?
No, it's actually it's very 30% of the calls that we go on close the first day, right? So that means 70% of them aren't. So that other 70% are the ones that we really need to impress over and over and stay in touch with and serve them with the right information. So you got to get the flies in the web first. Yeah, 25, 30%, somewhere in there.
That's a substantially different statistic than someone whose toilet's broken.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's probably working in their mind, and they're gathering a lot of information, and is it different when the brand has been in their mind for a while versus maybe they just looked you up for the first time on pay-per-click or however they found you, but they didn't hear you through the branding campaign?
It varies by avatar.
Yeah.
What's interesting is when we really got heavy and started doing a lot of branding and radio and stuff like that, never happened before we started doing that. People just started showing up at our office, like out of the blue. Hey, we wanted to come and make sure you guys were real. Almost 100% of those people were over 55, 58 years old, right?
Right.
They're people that want a relationship, right? They grew up watching their parents and themselves doing handshake deals, and they want to make sure that who they're doing business with is real and authentic. People younger than that tend to be more trusting and will buy something more online without going and meet, right? So
that's very interesting, Billy, because I do think the older generation didn't trust the internet. I think they're getting there now, as people get older, they had the internet, 15, 20 years ago. So now they trust the internet, maybe the people like me in their 60s, right? But, I never thought about that. Like, people would go to your office just to make sure your new door wasn't some kind of online scam, right? Yeah. That's very interesting. Something I wanted to touch on, you said, Billy, you talked about the experience, like the experience of the call. I have a quick story about experiences. I was having a pool remodel done, and when it was finished, the back windows were filthy. Like, you couldn't see out the back windows. And so the pool guy said, listen, I just used this company. They did a fantastic job, and they're so professional and really great. And so I said, perfect, don't have a window cleaner. So I have high expectations now, because Greg, my pool guy, had set these people up, and the pool company did a fantastic job. Well, the people come out. Everything about setting up the call was perfect, textbook. The people come out, they start on the outside. And so they're washing the windows, and the water's dripping onto their feet, and they're doing a great job washing the windows, right? But then they come inside and they don't put on shoe covers. And I'm like, okay, black mark, that's a problem. That was okay. They did a fine job on the windows, but they were in I have we call it a sunroom, but it's the room that's right inside the glass on the back wall. And there's chandeliers, and there's glass things hanging off the chandeliers. And my wife was in the room next to them. She didn't have clear sight of them, but she could see in the reflection, he knocked one of those off the chandelier, and it fell on the tile floor. Caused quite a, she could see it and hear it. And the guy real quick bent down, picked it up, and hung it back on the chandelier. So as I was writing them the check, she comes out and she said, did you knock one of the things off the chandelier? And the guy got visibly upset, like ticked off that she said that to him. And he said, well, yeah, I did. And she said, well, which one was it? Because there's 10 or 12 of them on the chandelier. And he said, oh, this one here. Well, it was broken. Totally ruined the experience for us, right? Went from they do a fine job on the windows to, well, they didn't put on shoe covers, which you could have let go, but there was marks all over the tile. And and then they weren't taking responsibility for it.
Mm.
That was just an employee. So we called our office. The office are coming out to measure the deal, and they're going to get a new one, and it's fine. But like, I think so often in the home service world, home improvement world, we set expectations with our marketing, and then if we don't follow through, it creates a bad experience for the customer. How do you measure the expectations that you set, Billy, when the call actually happens? Because it is like a transactional thing. You go out, you do the door, you leave, right?
You have to do that, right? So the home improvement, a lot of times, doors, windows, roofing, siding, things like that, the market stigma is that it's a commodity. It's a commoditized transaction. The challenge is not that we sell doors, yes, of course, but what I tell people, what I tell my people, what I instill in my people, and just had this conversation with a customer this week, is I'm not here to sell you doors. I'm here to take care of your home. I'm here to give you an experience. I'm here to serve you after you've written us the final check. We're here to answer the phone when you have a problem on the first ring, the same as when you called to give us the money the first time. And you have to be able to separate yourself from the commoditized component of those types of markets. We don't work with builders. Builders, generally speaking, not all. If you're a builder, I'm sorry, but builders are generally transactional. They're the thing that they sell to their customers is the bottom line, right?
Right.
A good, beautiful home that the people will be happy with at the cheapest possible price, because that's, at the end of the day, what they care about the most. We don't want to work with builders because we want to build a relationship
with the homeowner.
With the homeowner. You have a front door. Most people don't think about it. They also have 3 to 5 other exterior entry doors, right? Going out on your patio, out to your pool, from your house to garage. We want to be able to build a relationship to where the experience is really the marketing piece for the next opportunity with that customer, or when they move, or when their sister moves to town, or whatever. And that's where, over time, it's a long play, but it helps with your customer acquisition costs. And that's really what the value of your business is, right? At the end of the day.
I want to explore what he said about 70% of the business, 70 to 75% of the business is after the first call. And this is what it made me think about. Bob Conley is a person that's been with Alan for 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Long time. And he's a great service plumber now. He's in a management position. But I have him on a recording where we were at your place doing training. We had a bunch of people in the room, and he was talking to people about their follow-ups. And he said that 34 to 33% of his sales consistently month to month happen on the follow-up. And in this particular business, most people are, it's like, if you don't close it today, it's over. He doesn't buy that. So if you're getting 25 to 30% on that first close, what do you harvest on the nurture sequence downstream, and how long does that take?
It could take. We've closed a couple jobs this year. When I went and looked, we use Service Titan, so it tells you how old the estimate was. But we've closed several jobs this year over 300 days old.
Wow.
The challenge is sometimes, though, on those older estimates, price changes and things like that. But the there's so much opportunity in home improvement. I know that I'm probably a little bit different than most of your guests. You had a roofer on recently. She was home improvement, but a lot of what you guys train and coach is home service. Home improvement is a longer buying cycle, like I mentioned earlier. You got a lot of time to learn. If you need a new roof and you got hail damage, it's going to be fine for another month, right? Or whatever. It's so there's a lot of time there for people to learn, to read, and what you really have to do is serve them what they're looking for. The longer you can keep them on your site, learning, reading, looking for options and things, the more chance you have to close them. And that is where I recently hired someone, and this is their sole focus, is to work on the marketing and remarketing piece of the people we have in our ecosystem already. Life cycle marketing, rehash, retargeting. There's so much opportunity in that area because a lot of us, I was one of these guys too. I grew up thinking that I have to have new people coming in the front door all the time, which you kind of do, but we lose sight of the fact that if we can just market to these people, I think it's dopamine more than anything. You know, we want that new hit coming in instead of remarketing to the people we already have in our ecosystem, because that we have their attention and we can hit them for much less money. And it costs a lot more money over time than that first call, but sometimes it takes a while to build trust.
Yeah. You know what you said about home improvement is different, Alan. It takes me to our friends James and Michael in Australia.
Yes.
Because you know, the Australian market, especially around the coastal regions, oddly though, even though it's been hot there for a long time, a lot of the homes, when I say a lot, greater than 50%, don't have air conditioning.
Wow.
So it is home improvement. And they've been accustomed to it for a long time. So I was visiting with James last week, and I've been working with them for a long time, but I'm looking at their closing percentage. And if you look at their closing percentage, for a straight marketed closing percentage, you go, that's pretty good. And then you look at the revenue amount that they make per guy, and there's like, that's really, really good. But then they've got this, it's not a challenge, it's just the nature of their business, which is their guys are closing jobs weeks and months after it happens. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm talking to a friend that's an expert in Service Titan. And he's like, well, Service Titan doesn't do this, but I wish they would. And what we landed on, it's like, oh, that makes just duh, is I went back immediately to James and like, James, we just need to mix these numbers up. You've got everything going into one bucket. You need to create a second category, home improvement and home service, because that accounts for a huge difference in why the closing percentages are different and the time frame by it. And you're putting all the averages in one bucket, and all we really know is who is selling the most, but we don't know by what category they're selling the most.
Right.
So just getting category specific, kind of like with you, right? It's like most of yours is home service, but if I knew most of yours is home improvement, pardon me.
Yeah.
But if I knew that you were in the marketplace and I had that chunk on the door, I guess the first question that would go through my mind would be, would Billy come out and fix my door and maybe put a fresh coat of paint on it? Because it's a good door. Would you beautify it? Would you get it up to going for me? You know, is there a service that could be done if you were in the area?
We typically don't do cosmetic repairs like you were explaining. The challenge is
So I'm back to the same old place I was at.
well, the challenge is your mindset when you made that call, right? Your mindset was, and this is where salesmanship comes in and offering, you know, other options. You're most likely fixated on, this is a small repair. I just want this thing to disappear, right?
Right.
And if I come at you with, well, maybe you should consider replacing the door. It's a perfectly fine door. Maybe you should consider painting the whole thing. I don't know. It's just a small piece. So the problem business-wise is we tend to shy away from things like that where it's a small ticket. It's going to tie up the people. We can't serve you well in that area anyway. It's kind of below our floor and what we do well. We'll make recommendations for you. We got the furniture medic probably do a great job for you, you know, and we share those resources with our people. We can't help them. We try and still serve them by giving them a resource that can help them. And that's generally the best way we can serve for something like that without, you know, outright helping or doing it, but still offering some sort of service.
Okay. I'm going to go to Alan. What do you think about that, Alan?
I think my next company is going to be fixyourdoor.com, you know. All joking apart, it is, I do think, I think Billy may be one of the most fascinating guests we've had because, you know, he didn't go into an established field, if you like, right? I mean, I'm thinking about Houston sitting here and I'm going, yeah, you know, I know there's plenty of door refinishing companies if the varnish has gone bad on the door or whatever. But if I want to go buy a new door, I mean, nobody immediately springs to mind. You know, the ones you mentioned earlier, like, you know, Simonton and whoever it might be, yeah, they do your windows and doors maybe, but there is no specific door replacement company that only do replacement doors. And I don't know anyone. I would probably be looking, if I was in your shoes, Todd, at a furniture restoration company that come out and,
Yeah.
where they would
I didn't even
do
realize that
sand
was an
down.
option.
Yeah.
Furniture Medic will come out and do it. They'll do it.
Are they like a national wide brand?
Yeah, it's kind of there's several franchises along that line.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll do it like a spot repair.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's going through my brain. First of all, I don't know your business like you know your business. So take that with a huge grain of salt. I've not studied it. But what I'm thinking about is this conversation I had sitting around a pool. And I'll tell you guys this story. You might have heard this story, but I'm sitting around a pool in Austin, and my neighbor had invited me over, and he invited a bunch of friends over, and one of the friends was in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he goes, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And I told him, and he goes, "Oh, do you know that Elmer guy?" And I laughed. I'm like, yeah, I know him. He's like, he's been putting up signs everywhere. Elmer's coming. Elmer's coming. And then he goes, and then he's putting up these signs about we can fix anything,
Fix what you got.
Yeah, we can fix what you have. You don't have to replace it. And he looks at me and he goes, I thought you guys were in the business to make money. I said, well, they are.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, but isn't the money actually in replacements? And I'm like, it can be, and it usually is. By margin, it's a lot more, and by dollar, it's a lot more. He goes, well, why is he telling all of Dallas that he can fix their old crap? Because his technicians are just going to show up, and it's just going to be old crap that needs to be replaced. And he goes, oh. Like, I didn't talk him through it. As he talked it out loud, he went, oh.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I get it. And I'm going, you get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's not the case with doors necessarily?
It is, right? So just to kind of share a timeline of history of my business.
Yeah,
We
please.
started out, interestingly, I did Home Depot for a while, and then I went into kitchen and bath and just doing whatever I could do to make a buck.
Mm-hmm.
I was very good with my hands. I was very good at all home improvement type stuff. With just very opportunistic. When you don't have much cash flow, you need to do anything to generate cash flow.
Sure.
And I bumped into this guy after when I talked earlier about the internet. I found that job in the newspaper in the classifieds, and then the internet started being a thing. I met this guy on Craigslist of all places who was looking for someone to help him repair doors. So I'm like, all right. So I sent him a message on Craigslist. He emailed me back, and he was one of the early adopters of PPC.
Mm-hmm.
So he figured out how to get these leads on PPC. He would call me and just give me a lead and tell me where the job was, and I would go do the job, charge for it, whatever I wanted, and then just give him a percentage of the job.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out great. And then he went off and did other things. So during that time, I thought, well, maybe I should learn how to do PPC. So I did a job for a guy who helped me with a shingle, basically an online, basically a landing page.
Right.
DFW door repair. I named it DFW door repair because I felt like that was searchable early on in the internet. People were going to type those things in and it's going to pop up, right? And it did. But I also learned how to do PPC. Early days of PPC was the 3 or 4 page interface. It wasn't that hard. And which now it's 600 pages of interface and a whole lot harder. But I learned how to do PPC, so I'm just not very good at it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Enough to get by. I was doing really good. And then, so DFW door repair is where we started. So we were trying to capture people, much like Elmer, right? Or Heat and Air. They want to get out and look at the ones that are bad, because a lot of times when you show up, if we can serve them well with value and fix the one they got, we will. And then we'll
Mm-hmm.
make that, we'll offer that. But if it's hanging on by a thread and we're like,
Different story, right?
bro, this ship has sailed, you need to replace it. However, I can help you with that. Here's the price for that. And we sold a lot of doors that way. So that was kind of the premise of that. And then we evolved we went to meet Roy, and
Yeah.
Roy's like, Billy, you're not thinking big enough. And I can help you, but I can't make DFW door repair mean anything in Oklahoma City or Houston, right?
Right.
So we just spent a lot of money rebranding, refreshing the brand,
Mhm.
with Dan and.
Well, I want to talk
Lee.
about both of these things.
Yeah.
You're going exactly where I wanted to go. But let's go PPC first.
Yeah.
Because you spent almost $500,000 in pay-per-click. I want to think in like 2023.
23-ish.
Yeah.
Yes.
To be specific, I think it was 400,000 to
Ish.
generate $3 million in revenue.
Yeah.
And then you turned it off. So why'd you turn it off?
It was another happy accident. I didn't know enough about it to know where to go in and fix something. Google changes the algorithms all the time.
Mm-hmm.
people out there listening, if you don't manage your own PPC, or if you have a group that does it for you, what happens when you're addicted to the crack of PPC is the phone will just stop ringing sometimes, and you don't know why, and you got to dig in and figure it out. So you go in and you say, oh, my manual bids were all off. This was back in the day. Now everybody sets it and forgets it. But so you got to go in there and change all your bids and your keywords, and you move stuff around, and so magically it starts working again, right? Like Google knows exactly how to put that in your veins, you know, and to keep you going and keep you strung out. And if the phones aren't ringing, you just turn up your daily budget, and oh wow, the phones are ringing again, you know. And it's like this cat and mouse game until it just gets out of control. And that's where we were. We didn't have a lot of money extra. We didn't know how to manage our cash flow and to do all the things like a lot of guys don't at that stage in their business. But it was Christmas time, and we weren't really staffing anything. It was one of those weird years where Christmas fell at a weird time. So we just decided to shut up from Christmas Eve through New Year's and come back after New Year's. So we turned off the PPC because I didn't want to be paying the whatever we were spending a day, $300 or $400, $500, $800 a day, whatever it was, to get these calls. Well, what was interesting was the phone kept ringing. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And it was good calls. And we made it through, and we came back to all these calls and sales. So I'm like, well, now we're flush with work. I don't need to turn the PPC on today. Well, the phone kept ringing through January. I'm like, wow, this is weird. This was before we started working with Roy. And then February, it was the same thing. I'm like, gosh. So what I figured out was one of two things could have been possible, and I think it was the first. We really weren't getting that many calls from PPC. Our brand equity had started to kind of catch up online, and we were getting a lot of branded type calls and just organic calls. We were just attributing it to PPC because that was our paid channel, and we didn't know because we had the same phone number on everything. So it was hard to track what was working. That was a rookie mistake. So, but it was scary, right? If I don't do this, the phone's going to stop ringing. My mind was addicted to that, and the opposite was true. That was the lesson I needed to go in and assign phone numbers to everything to track attribution. And if it is PPC, that's fine. Right. We'll spend more money on PPC, but if it's not, we'll focus on the things that are generating the best, the most, highest quality leads and spend our money there. So that was kind of what happened with that whole journey, and why we didn't really have to spend any money, and we actually grew the following year without spending any money. We just knew on PPC we spent a little bit, but we knew what we were spending, where we were spending it, and what was working then, instead of just the shotgun approach that we all take early on.
Yeah, that crack is expensive, addictive, and not very effective.
I think cocaine would probably be a cheaper, you know.
Google know how to play the game, right? They know how to keep you guessing and you know, have you react every time the phone stops ringing. So it's and it's getting worse. It's getting more and more expensive.
Way more expensive.
I was the regional guy for Texas for Wrench, so I had Baker Brothers and I had Berkey's in South Lake, and of course my own business in Houston and the Greenfield in Austin, and the cost of leads were twice in Dallas what they were in Houston. Like Dallas is just an expensive, a competitive market, because you have Baker Brothers, you have Milestone, you have a number one air in our category, and everybody's competing against each other, you know, and it becomes madness.
Countless others, right,
exactly.
below that too.
They're just the three, 500-pound gorillas. So what happened next, Billy? That's what every marketer doubts, you know. Can you spend less and earn more?
Well, what I learned through my journey and getting in front of the right people and learning myself, reading a lot of books, is you don't have to do that. The problem that we have is we're just all scared, right, of what happens when you don't. And what I learned about myself and my leadership style and how I was going to work through this was I realized that Google is hunting, and hunting is important if there's a season for it.
True.
But you also, when you're hunting, you need to be harvesting your crops. But if you haven't planted any crops and you're only hunting, well, eventually the things you hunt get scarce, right? Because everybody's hunting them. So we started planting crops. We started setting up multiple GMB locations. We started investing in these things that were going to take some time to grow. And it's what I told my people. I said, we're going to start planting these crops. The best time to plant an oak tree was yesterday and today, right? 10 years ago and today.
No doubt.
We may not get to sit in the shade of this tree, but it will at some point in time start to bear fruit.
Right.
And at that time, it's going to feel like, oh, wow, this is the best thing ever, without remembering, hey, we planted this crop 3 years ago, right? So farming has to become an important part of growing a business if you have a vision for a bigger scale.
No question. So let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to combine in that vision with brand, because you kept your new door. Well, let me rephrase that. You launched your new door while you kept DWF door, or whatever that is.
DFW door repair.
Thank you.
Yep.
You kept that alive. And I think you told me that website still generates a ton of leads, even though you don't operate by that, right?
It's another happy accident. You know, we were working with a group building out all the digital assets, the website and all the things for your new door. And, you know, the traditional normal play is just to do a redirect. Well, that probably works, and I'm just speaking anecdotally, that probably works fine on unbranded searches. But we had been in business and in the market for 15, 10 years up to that point, and we had a lot of brand equity, right? So when people are searching and going to DFW door repair and suddenly they see something else, it can be confusing and you may not get that lead. So like I said, it was a happy accident. We kept DFW door repair online and it still drove almost all of our revenue. It takes a while to build brand equity against a new brand. It's farming, and it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of patience. It's like you're sitting there, you're like, come on, grow. You know, all you can do is fertilize it and water it, and then, you know, suddenly you look up and it's growing.
If you just think about the names, your new door, Dallas Fort Worth door repair, they're by your own statements, there are two categories that are serving different needs. And I think that's probably a wise thing to think about right there.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something else that may surprise you, and it kind of surprised me. What happened when we did this? Like I said, it was a happy accident. When you start doing a lot of keyword research and brand search and stuff online and doing Google research, well, suddenly, wow, I've got two brands that are in 6 spots above the fold on Google's first page between paid and organic. LSA, we do LSA. It doesn't drive a lot, but it means a lot to me to have the little green check mark up there.
Right.
So I've got two brands that are both up there. They're both in the map pack, multiple places. The AI overview is giving attribution to both brands, right there in the top 3, and then the organic stuff. I mean, I don't know how much that's worth, but it's worth a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so where I'm going with this is about 3 weeks ago or so, we did an acquisition of an end market brand that was doing exactly the same thing we were. The only other company that I know of in the U.S. that makes, sells, and installs custom doors direct to consumer. And somehow it's weird. I was like, man, I'd love to have that brand too, because they're the only other one that really come up a lot in Google. So,
per se, yeah.
But now I have all 3 brands online. We were able to acquire that brand, and the name of that company was Dallas Door Designs. And when they came over and when we started to integrate, and I started to see a lot of their lead flow and stuff, they're getting a different clientele too. I'm like, wow, I never thought of that. They're getting people that are designers and higher end clientele because of the name design, I guess, in their name. So it's interesting, you know, you made that point of repair. Your new door makes it sound like, well, they're just going to sell me a new door, right?
Right.
And then Dallas Door Designs is getting an even higher end clientele that we're expecting a higher price point. So it's a bunch of happy accidents here.
Well, you talked about the 3 tiers. You've got the luxury, you've got the mid tier, and then you've got the inexpensive. And it sounds like you now have potentially all those 3 tiers.
We have all 3.
Yeah. So that's
amazing. Yeah.
It's really good.
So what's your average ticket across the company?
That's a great question. Blended between repair and replacement is 4,900 between repair and replacement.
Right.
If you break it down, repair tickets are around $1,100-$1,200 average. I probably shouldn't say this out loud on the air, but whatever. I'll tell you why in a little bit. It's a big barrier to entry to this, but the replacement tickets for normal up to custom are $7,000-8,000 average.
Mm-hmm.
Custom tickets start at about $9,000, between $9,000 and $11,000 for general custom or iron replacement.
So I'm just confused about something, Billy, which is fairly common. Todd mentioned earlier having a door repair. So what is the repairs you're doing? You said you wouldn't repair Todd's door if you were in this area.
There's a lot of things. There's not very many moving parts on a door. Right. You got 3 hinges and that's about it.
Right.
You got a door sweep and a weather strip.
Yeah.
However, especially in the Dallas market, I haven't done enough research in Houston or Austin or anywhere like that, but in Dallas, we have this, what they call the black gumbo clay soil, right? It's very expansive. It moves a lot. Your house doesn't have to move a lot because your doors only have an 1/8 inch margin side to side and across the top. If your house moves a little bit, it throws the door off. Suddenly it doesn't latch. It doesn't lock. It doesn't seal well. You'll see daylight around. Your weather strip also wears out.
Right.
And the doors that you use the most, the one you go in and out of the most from house to garage or your back patio doors, are the ones that wear out the fastest.
Right.
So a lot of the houses in the Dallas market were built without any covering, right? Over the back patio doors or side entries and things. So the doors will rot. The door frames will rot. Designers and builders don't really put a lot of thought into keeping these things out of the elements. If it gets a lot of sun or rain or weather, they go bad. The seals fail and the glass and fog up. So there's a ton of things that you might need for a repair. But just like when you go to give an estimate to replace or repair an AC system, it's going to cost you $1,800 to repair it or $2,900 to replace it. Which one is a better value, right?
Right.
So you let the customer decide what's a better value to them. But there's a lot of things that can go wrong in a door, but mostly seal failure, weather strip. It's not setting right.
And is it only wooden doors you do? You'll do metal doors?
We do wood. We do iron.
Yeah.
We do fiberglass. If I'm being transparent and honest, I prefer to do the fiberglass back doors because there's not a lot of choices there.
Right.
It's very binary. And
well, why do you say it that way? What do I not understand that would make you hedge that statement a little bit?
Front doors are very aesthetic. They're very specific to the style of your home. They're very specific to your personality and your aesthetic tastes, right?
I see.
Longer buying cycle, higher price point. They're going to think about it longer. They're going to shop around a lot more. And it's hard to do the cheapest price on something that is in those categories. However, back doors, right? Most of the houses that were built, and I'm going to assume in Houston and Austin as well, since 1992, all have builder's grade steel back doors, just like the ones that are on all the entries in with the plastic frames around the glass, right? Just the cheapest possible builder's grade product. It's adequate, it's fine, but it's not as nice as what a lot of people want today. And we generally don't replace anything like that with steel doors. We'll go back with fiberglass.
So a fiberglass door is nicer aesthetically looking?
They're identical in appearance. It's just a nicer product. They're more energy efficient.
Is it stronger for like break-ins?
It's about the same.
Yeah.
So, but there's not a lot of choices there. The glass choice is really the choice. And the interesting thing that we found is when you have one of those doors on the back of your house, you usually have 2 or 3 or 4. You don't want to replace them all if you don't have to. So when you replace one, you need something aesthetically similar to the rest. So not a lot of choices there. Hey, we've got the exact same thing. We're going to paint it for you, install it, clean up, be out of your hair. And this is how much it costs. It's real easy to sell.
Yeah.
But when you've got a front door that's, $8,000, there's a whole lot of salesmanship that has to go on there and value conveyance, you know.
Would it be fair to say the average homeowner has no idea what that front door is going to cost? Because I think most homeowners could figure out, a new air conditioner it's going to be at least 10 grand maybe. But a door, like, honestly, before I had this conversation with you, I had no idea what a new door cost. I haven't bought a new front door, right? So,
that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Is setting expectations before you ever get there. I don't know. You may know about my model. We do all of our sales over the phone. So if you wanted a new door, you're going to call and share some information with us. We're going to have a phone conversation about price before anyone ever comes to your house.
Okay, so your price condition over the phone?
You
actually give the
estimate over the phone.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow.
So you're going to know how much it is, and we're going to get a price commitment or a purchase commitment from you before I ever send anyone to your home.
Oh, interesting.
And then from there, you know, we just come out, take measurements, and make sure that we got the right thing for you.
And that's in that closing percentage that you...
Absolutely, yeah.
What did you find was the difference between, obviously you're saving a lot of time. What was the difference in your closing percentage between in-person versus phone estimates?
You know, when we were doing all in person, I wasn't smart enough to measure it then, so it's hard to say. I do know what generally speaking, what good close rates are for home improvement in home and things like that. We're closing in the 40% range right now. We just started weekly sales training and working off of a structured sales process. We're changing some things up now. So I fully expect our closing percentage to go up. 50-60% is pretty solid in the home. The challenge is in a market the size of Dallas, if you're getting 30 leads a day, the traditional model, one guy is going to struggle to hit 3 houses a day. One sales guy go to 3 sales appointments a day. So at minimum, I got to have 10 sales guys.
Right.
I got to have 10 cars on the road. I got to have insurance on 10 cars. I got 10 guys. One of them may have a beer for breakfast and mess something up, right? So there's a lot of liability involved there and overhead. The challenge is, even if they close at 60% in the home versus 40-45% over the phone, I can't outrun the overhead, right?
Right.
Of those. And one sales guy can run 15 sales calls a day over the phone. My best sales guy lives in Philadelphia and has never once stepped foot on a job site in Dallas, not one time.
Wow.
What are you guys using, like Google or something to look at the front of the house, or how are you getting your information?
Hey, Todd, I know you called and you said you'd like to have a new front door. It would help us out a lot if you could send us a picture of your front door from the inside and out, just an overall picture, one from the inside, one from the out. And if your wife has an idea of what she'd like the new door to look like, if you could share that with me, I could start looking for you and finding something. I can give you a couple different options. Obviously, things that I can find in market that are similar are probably going to be a better price point. But at least I'll have an idea on her taste and style, and I can serve you guys with what you're looking for. You think you could do that for me?
Sure, I'll send you a picture.
Absolutely. All right.
Running some lines, right?
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So let's talk about your brand a little bit, Billy. So tell us how you built the brand equity you have today.
Happy accident, you know.
I heard that before somewhere.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing, right? Honestly, I think even the most successful people are just winging it most of the time, right? But I started having the right influences and getting around the right people and learning some things that I probably should have already known. And brand equity is subjective to what you do and also how the people perceive you. You can influence how they perceive you through good marketing and good branding, but you can't fake authenticity in how you serve them, right? So brand equity is also tied to service and what the people say about you. Your brand isn't necessarily your logo or what's on the wall or what they see online. It's what they say about you after you're gone.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, totally agree.
So having, you know, hundreds and hundreds of good reviews that all pretty much mention the same experience really helps there, especially when 95% of our new leads come from online, either organic or paid channels or social media or whatever. They all need to go. Anyone that's going to spend a lot of money is going to do a little bit of research generally and find and search all your channels and all things. And when they see that everyone's having this amazing experience, that really helps with brand equity.
There were a lot of good takeaways from there for me, part of which was when we got into that deep conversation about his business being a home improvement versus a service business.
Right. I mean, honestly, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, in my mind, it was a home service business.
Me too.
But I think he did a great job of explaining why he sees it as a home improvement business.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, the conversation kept rolling and we realized that there was a second episode in here, so we kept moving. So I want to invite the listener back because when we get into this next episode, we're jumping into some really hot buttons. We talk about branding, specifically sort of a Dan Antonelli as opposed to Roy H. Williams and their philosophical styles. I think the listener would find that fascinating. And then we get into the science of scaling. And Alan, that's where I think it got most interesting. So I'm excited to talk about that in part two.
There was some real meat on the bones around the science of scaling, and is it a good thing? Is it maybe possibly misleading? We get into all that, and I think the listener will draw their own conclusions. I certainly have mine. I think you have yours. Billy has his. Not saying they're all different, but it was a very worthwhile conversation.
Yeah. So we look forward to hearing that.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Tinsel Touch Todd Liles.